You're listening to the Daily Batuta News Wrap, live on Desert Rock FM.
Hello, my name's Wendell Hussey, and you're listening to the Batuta Advocate's Daily News Wrap. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, things seem to be getting closer and closer to a total lockdown. Desert Rock FM and the Batuta Advocate newsroom in the Old City District are shut for the next little while as the Advocates team looks to keep contact at a bare minimum. So, for the foreseeable future, we'll be coming to you live from the Budgie Smuggler bedroom in some generic project home on the edge of the Batuta Heights. In these uncertain times, with things rapidly changing all the time, we'll be dropping a daily news wrap at the end of every traditional working day to get you up to speed on what's been happening around town, around the country, and around the world. So make sure to tune in. Alrighty, we'll kick off down in Sydney with one of our big stories. Rich people don't get coronavirus, confirms 20,000 brainless cunts on Bondi Beach on Friday arvo. Yeah, some interesting news for medical experts and health professionals fighting against COVID-19 in a sense, but the rest of the nation weren't impressed after photos circulated of Bondi Beach looking like it was the first day of summer on Friday afternoon. Despite the Prime Minister issuing urgent warnings about what not to do during the crisis, Australia's most attractive, wealthy and cultured citizens decided to completely ignore him in an effort to show them that the potentially fatal effects of COVID-19 don't affect them. The well-publicised photos resulted in a huge social media backlash, with the rest of the nation now asking every Bondi resident the age-old question, how dumb are you, cunt? While that question hasn't been answered yet, the state and federal governments have been forced to implement far tighter restrictions on Australian residents in an effort to make sure that people ensure a safe distance from one another to prevent the spread of the virus. So thanks to the good people of the Bondi bubble, all restaurants and cafes are now takeaway only. Pubs, registered and licensed clubs, nightclubs, casinos, cinemas, gyms, indoor sporting venues, indoor churches and other places of worship have all been forced to close today, completely fucking over a giant group of people relying on those places to stay open so they can pay rent and put food on the table. Moving on to some other national news now. Gladys grits teeth and smiles through another captain's call by Scotty the medical expert. This follows another day of state premiers and the Prime Minister operating on seemingly different wavelengths about what should be done in the midst of this crisis. Speaking at a press conference down in Sydney today, the New South Wales Premier followed in the footsteps of her Victorian counterpart Daniel Andrews and announced that all parents that should be keeping their children away from schools to prevent the spread of the virus. She was then seen gritting her teeth and forcing a fake smile when asked about why she was saying something completely different to the Prime Minister, who issued a statement confirming that schools would stay open and kids should be attending. Oh, he said that, did he? Interesting. Well, that's not what we're saying, said Berejiklian, as if they didn't all have a video conference last night to discuss these sorts of things. She then said, can someone tell Scott that we need a uniform set of guidelines for people to follow so they aren't getting confused? So hopefully we'll get that soon. In finance news today, please help us, Scotty, asks airline, bank and energy companies that haven't paid tax for decades. The Batuta Advocate can exclusively reveal that a range of multi-billion-dollar companies have put their caps in their hands this morning and made a quick trip down to Canberra to beg the Prime Minister to not let them fail. Despite cashing in on the economic boom that was the last couple of decades and doing everything they could to avoid paying anywhere near their fair share of tax, a group of companies have now asked the government for a handout to help them get by. It's not yet known what the Prime Minister will decide on the issue, but an insider has told us that he's probably going to tell them to get fucked. And we had a comment on that from Aaron Miller, who lives down in the French Quarter, who said, amazing how the CEOs of these companies can earn millions and millions of dollars for supposedly being business geniuses, yet the minute they encounter any hiccup, they're screwed and need to stick their hand out for bailouts. An interesting point there. Quickly touching on some sad international news now, and report, the gambler, he broke even. Very sad, referring of course to the great Kenny Rogers, who passed on Saturday at the age of 81. So the dealing's done, valet to the gambler. Sports news now. In what comes as somewhat of a silver lining for the AFL, the Gold Coast Suns have set a new attendance record despite the coronavirus restrictions. Remarkably, amidst all that's going on, the team from the Glitter Strip have smashed their own crowd record at Metricon Stadium over the weekend. It wasn't enough to get them over the line, unfortunately, as they fell by 57 points to Port Adelaide Power, but the record should stand for quite some time, as the season's now been called off by AFL CEO Gillan McLachlan for the next couple of months at least. Good on them. I guess they're not an essential service like the NRL. Anyway, that's all from the Batuta Advocate newsroom from home today. Thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, stay sanitised, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.